Today on Keeba Live, let's talk about Facebook and what's going on over in Europe concerning Facebook's, shall we say, policy or not to have a policy. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. I'm William Lee, podcaster, podcast producer, and the founder of the Keeba Agency for Digital Marketing. Today, we're going to talk about Facebook. Well, once again, Facebook is back into the world global network of misconception of enforcement of policy. How many times have we heard in the United States about the policy of Facebook? And how many times and how many million people have been affected when Facebook takes your message and changes it, or their AI, artificial intelligence, decides to rate your program information differently than you have written it? Or how many times have we been disgusted with some of this, shall we say, un-policy items that show up on Facebook, or distasteful, I believe, absolutely obnoxious postings? The UK has finally set this record right. They have come out with Facebook will no longer be allowed to govern itself. In fact, they've decided it's time for the government to step in like a cop on a beat and take action. Now, this all came about because of a digital cultural organization that is over in the UK was asked to publish all of the final reports after 18 months of investigation into Facebook and what information their other companies were requesting, that's on social media companies, that could be considered harmful or illegal. Now, the UK has consistently asked to have the policies and regulations of Facebook examined. And now that this 18-month report of findings has come out, it seems now that the UK is dead set on making regulations and policies that they will enforce, since Facebook seems to be, well, shall we say, turning the head the other direction. Now, the new report lays out government groundwork for further legislation, and this legislation, without a doubt, is going to put codes and policy requests into law. And this is going to change things around because, there has been so much code of ethics and policy that has been so hotly contested in the United States. Now, Facebook naturally has been noted for raising Cain in foreign countries. When I say raising Cain, I'm simply meaning that some of their, shall we say, political views and money that changed hands during elections, which so far we can't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, could have or may have influenced different types of laws, regulations, or even maybe revolts of companies coming against government, or in the foreign theater, maybe even revolts and uprisings of people trying to take over the governments. Now, we remember the little situation that happened in Egypt not long ago, so we really don't have to look back on that, but we can, beyond a shadow of a doubt, point our finger at Facebook. Now, of course, whenever any of this comes up in the foreign market concerning privacy laws, advertising laws, and etc., when Facebook is asked for comment, they immediately never respond. I kind of think that's because they have a board meeting immediately when something like this breaks out, and Mr. Mark runs around on the telephone telling all of his attorneys at $1,250 an hour or more to gather in the conference room immediately. We have a problem, and I don't know what to say. So the attorneys gather around under the table and come up with some wonderful policy ideas, or they just tell him not to say anything at all. Usually, it's a combination of the two of them. Now, of course, I'm not saying that Facebook should immediately respond. You do have to think, answer, and check the legality of any of a large legislation or comments or actions that you're going to take on any source to protect the company and the loyalty of their advertisers and sponsors. I understand that. But I don't understand when we have conversation that comes out of, well, shall we say, both sides of the Facebook mouth at once. It's unregrettable that such a large, and it is the world's largest platform of social media, could have, shall we say, run adrift so quickly. But hey, maybe the dollar bill caused this, or maybe it was just bad leadership. Now we can look at the other side of the coin also. It seems in the UK they've decided now that they should look at some of their own laws and rulings according to their different committees on political advertising, involving further investigations into foreign influences in political campaigns. Of course, we didn't discuss that when President Trump was elected, did we? Among the countless inconsistencies, now the UK is getting very concerned about that are false. It's simple as that. Bad news or harassment or other areas of discrimination that are now appearing on Facebook. And they feel that this is propaganda of all types to influence elections and the democratic process. Much of Facebook and other social media companies are either unable or unwilling to present a reason why it should be prevented, removed, or challenged by their policies. They just don't seem to want to answer that at all. Now, it'll be very interesting to find out what kind of code of ethics, if we are going to rewrite the book, are actually going to be used and how they're going to be placed together as a foundation to curb this propaganda and this influence that seems to be really spreading like a cancer epidemic in media companies overseas. The committee is an interim report last summer, of course. It called for a code of ethics that would affect all tech companies around the world. And after months of talk within the parliamentary procedure of what we call political yak-yak, now they're insisting that they must set the foundation and build it even stronger when it comes to terms of this policy. And they want to build it so that it is enforceable, hopefully, throughout Europe. That's right, throughout Europe. They are looking at trying to force and persuade legal action against companies like Facebook who refuse to remove unlawful content. Now, doesn't that make sense? Facebook makes a big meow when the general public puts something on there that they feel it's against their political views or their rules or regulation. They come down on you like thunder roll. In fact, in many cases, they put you in Facebook jail. But yet when it comes to European areas, when it comes to countries that are very much so influenced by Facebook, Facebook just doesn't want to seem to get involved. They kind of shout, I guess what you would call the background of not really wanting to stir the pot. Now, what actually is in the pot, or who is the pot of controversy? The UK committee was personally cynical of Facebook's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, who has continued to refuse. Now, I want you to understand this. He has continued, I'm sure his lawyers told him to be quiet, public requests to answer to the members of this group questions as per the report. All they want him to do is to sit down and listen to what they have to say about how this report was put together and the questions that this report brought out. Now, they're not interested in logarithms or mechanics. They're interested in fact. He is, number one, he is the Facebook. There is no doubt about it. And as CEO, he has the undoubted responsibility to billions of people around the world to answer those questions. And so far, he hasn't done it. In fact, does he even believe that he is not accountable to the UK Parliament? I can't believe this. Or does he believe that he is so powerful now in social media that he doesn't have to answer any of these questions? And he continues to fail to show levels, I think, of leadership and personal responsibility that is respected and expected from those who sit in the big world companies. I mean, this is a CEO. This is not, I underline this is not howdy doody. Now, it's been reported that last week, the U.S. regulations area of the Federal Trade Commission is in negotiations with Facebook right now to levy a multi-billion-dollar fine as for consequences of its deceitful private practices following all these different investigations and scandals like the Cambridge scandal. What's going on? And does it appear now that the UK is preparing to take its own measures to rein in the powerful power of the social media Facebook group? About a year ago, I talked about the factors that if Facebook did not, shall we say, build a better foundation, if they didn't take some real powerful moves in their leadership department, that there was a strong possibility that it could implode within itself. And I think that's exactly where it's headed. I listened to a couple of shows on financial news on the internet where the real sharp people in the business of business said that the best thing that could ever happen is that Gorilla Tape would be applied to Mark Zuckerberg's mouth, and he would be put into a basement, dark basement, the door closed, and not let out to be seen by the public or heard from the public or any other government officials until he could clean the mess up, and then, shall we say, do a lobotomy on his brain to straighten out the functions that are right now in trouble. Now, major platforms throughout the years have run into serious problems, there's no doubt. Google had its ups and downs, and there's a lot of other platforms that have had substantial problems where they've had to take action to regroup the top management and come out of it as a company with a conscience. Now it appears the UK is going to force their police, their code of ethics, and now their regulations down Mr. Zuckerberg's throat. And I have a feeling that they may even, in the dark areas of restitution, probably go after him for a few bucks themselves. What a mess this could be. And it's a situation that I don't believe that, maybe I'm wrong. I don't believe that Facebook really has considered a problem. I think they're looking at this as, well, we're the biggest in the world. We can just brush this under the table, or we can figure out a way with our lawyers and we can beat these raps one by one. But I'll tell you something that I believe in very, very seriously. And you'll notice on our podcast network, we always like to talk about a conversation, a starting point, because we believe that conversations like our show here get people thinking. And when people get thinking, they start taking action. And one thing that Mr. Facebook cannot overlook, and that's the users. That's right, folks, the users. Now, he's lost a big chunk of the action when the younger generation moved to Snapchat. And he used several unique ways of trying to stop that. In fact, he even tried to buy Snapchat at one time. Can he buy his way out of this mess, folks? Can he buy government support again? Can he buy the attitude that they'll look the other way because he is Mr. Zuckerberg, the biggest social media platform in the history of the world? Well, I'll tell you, Julius Caesar, he had a kind of a bad day at Black Rock, didn't he? Maybe Mark is headed in the same ways. Maybe the eyes are upon him. Who knows? But one thing is for sure. Everybody has to think about what's going on. And those that are on Facebook that love to post just like I do have to really now wonder, what is Facebook going to be like in 3 years from now? Or will it even be in existence? It's been great talking with you today. I hope that you can take this conversation and start your own conversation about it. Because remember, together we can make things happen. And we need to make things happen in social media. So until we get together again, have a short cup of coffee and sit around the table here and discuss the world as we see it, I'm Bill. And I'd like to remind you that you can get a hold of me at keeba-smiling.com. That's KEEBA smiling.com. And send me a line. Tell me what you think about this Facebook thing. If you're a pro-Facebook guy, or if you think that we're way off and we shouldn't be talking about how Mr. Frankenstein, as I'm now going to call him, is going to